Yo, welcome back to another episode of Continuously Inspired. My name is Dervion Shakur. This is the hub for creatives to take their inspirations to inspire the next generation. Yo, today I'm going to speak about a lady who have had the most impact in my life and who I think, quite honestly, changed the course of my life. So back when I was in high school, like most kids, I was someone who wasn't really focused. I had my mind on so many other things outside of school and someone who wanted to just fit in. And I can honestly say that now at 26 years old, I was just a kid who was trying to fit in. And I remember I was a TA for the attendance office, and there was a lady named Miss Jensen who was at the time a bit older. Um, and I remember one day being her teacher assistant, and I remember just coming into her room and not doing anything for a long portion of time, and this will go on for weeks and weeks on end. So I remember one day she told me, like, why when you come here you never do anything. And she may have not said it that dry, but it was something similar to that. And I remember saying something smart, like something that like a snobby kid would say. And I remember her being so patient with me and saying, I have this gift that I was going to give my son, but I'm going to give it to you instead. And I was wondering, like, what is she going to give me? And I was thinking at this time, but I was like, well, whatever. So what she ended up doing was coming back to school the next day, and she had this nice big blue book that says wooden. It was like in yellow and like yellow words. It said wooden at the top, and at the bottom it said Arthur John Wooden, right? So she says, here's this book, and I'm like, a book? And at the time, mind you, I wasn't much of a reader. Like I said, I was a kid who wasn't really focused on school, let alone education or even self-development. So I didn't really think much about this book. I read this book, and inside the book, it had this philosophy that he would use, which was like, it was called like the pyramid of success. And he was saying that he would utilize the pyramid of success for all of the great superstars that he had coached who went to UCLA. And I remember being so stunned, so amazed about how phenomenal this book was. It was so, man, it was so tremendous on how genius this book was. And I remember at the end of it, this was actually the first book that I ever finished by myself. And I was so happy because I was like, yo, I finished a book by myself. But the book was it has so many gems. And then I remember coming back and saying, I need more of this. And then the second book that I happened to fall upon was The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And for those who know who Eckhart Tolle is, man, his book was, it was out of this world when I read it. It was and at the time I needed that because I was on a phase of trying to understand who I was from a spiritual stand. And I think Eckhart Tolle really was able to describe where I was trying to go without me fully understanding where I was trying to go. And then shortly after that, I read a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, I believe, or The Tibetan Book of the Living Dead or something in that nature. It's been a long time since I read that. And that was like another spiritual book. And then I remember shortly after that finding myself being so fascinated with how words was. And how there was so many gems inside of books that I start to dedicate myself to reading literature and reading books all the time. Even to this day, I'm an avid reader. I try to read 2 or 3 books at one time, sometimes even 4. And I always think about this lady, Miss Jensen, because I remember how at the time I was this ignorant child and I didn't know anything. And she didn't know by giving me that book that she was going to change the course of my life because of that book, it started to instill things inside of my mind thoughts inside of my mind that I had not thought of at that point. And what it did for me was start to open me up to become a speaker. Because one thing that I realized about people is that some people who are even quiet people sometimes still have questions. And I was a kid who was very insecure about how I spoke because I used to speak with a mumble. And I remember when I read the book, I started to have all these gems start to pour up in my head, and my mind just started to spark. It seemed like neurons and stuff start to connect inside of my mind, and I started to understand how things worked. And like that started to change the course of my life, because now, even as a speaker, I always have to go back to that time when I first read that book, because it gave me the confidence to want to speak, because there were so many things that was happening in my head that I no longer could write them down. I had to say it. And what it did for me was it started to help me grow my vocabulary. And it's one of the things that I typically tell people when I read books these days. I don't usually read books on audiobooks or even ebooks. Sometimes I read ebooks, but my main source of reading typically comes from a physical book. And one of the reasons why is because I like being able to see the word. I like to be able to pronounce the word. I like to break the word up, put it back together. And I like to continue to understand. I have conversations with the author all the time. Any book that I read, I have conversations with these authors. And there have been many people that I've come across in my life who has given me books, and I have given them books, and they have went on to be really great readers themselves. And I guess I'm reminded of this to show people, like, sometimes you never know what that small gift that you will give someone can take them. Miss Jensen didn't know that by giving me a book that she was going to change the course of my life, and she was going to help so many other young people. At the end of the day, I'm extremely grateful for her. And I'm always praying that God is with her constantly, because she changed my life dramatically. And to be able to have an experience like that, man, it's priceless. So I just wanted to go ahead and share that with you guys. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you guys continue to thrive, continue to find ways to stay inspired, continue to love, continue to put God first. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.